Do you realize that 2023 will be completely different to 2022? And I tell you why. Hi, I'm Markku Wilenius, the traveling futurist. You know, we're getting into the stage with this war in Ukraine where actually it is more or less looking like it's the war between Russia and the West. Why we have come to this point? Several reasons. One of the reasons has been that it has become much more evident that Ukraine cannot withstand the pressure that comes from Russia unless there is a heavy support coming from Western allies. And this has been a rather painful for the West, particularly for European countries, to realize that they have to be much more involved than what they originally thought. The second aspect of this very new situation that we are now in the beginning of 2023 is that, unlike a year ago, Russian economy is not strong anymore. What I mean by that? Well, first of all, they have almost like 50% deficit in their budget for this year, which was very recently announced. Now, this means that something has happened, and of course we kind of know what has happened, particularly the revenues that come from the oil and the gas, particularly the gas for the Europe has dropped, actually fallen off. But in addition to that, also something else. Russia used to be also the most important petroleum producer for the West. But since early February 2023, this is no longer possible, this type of a trade. Europe has banned it. So this meant that the whole Russian situation has moved into one being a very strong economy when it started the war, now having actually a very weak economy. And that will then eat up the Russian resolve, because the growing amount of expenditures is going towards the army. The army needs more than it did last year because their reserves are dwindling down. So this year, what's going to happen with that war is very much dependent on what is happening with the support that comes from the West to Ukraine, and particularly the US role there. The role of the United States is critical here, not only because they are the biggest contributor. They have already given something close to $30 billion to Ukraine, but also because there is a very strong moral support. And that moral support is as important as the support that comes from exporting and giving all those arms that is needed in the fight. Now, for Europe, this year also is critical because to some extent Europe has actually recovered from the shock that it was given last year because of all these reductions in the supply that came from Russia. Now the situation is different and new sources are there. And now for this year, the real discussion goes around how the war will be finished and what comes after. Europe has a critical role there because, first of all, Ukraine has applied membership for European Union. And European Union, for its part, has promised that they going to really have the shortest possible procedure to make that happen. But of course, still it will take time and it will take a lot of effort from the part of the Ukraine, I mean, war excluded, to deal with their own deficiency in terms of the corruption and the general organization of the country. But there is a lot of willingness there now, which is really the most important thing. So what we're going to see in the 2023 is that this is going to be a new type of the unification between Ukraine and the Europe and European Union in particular. And that will then bring what Ukrainians originally wanted, which is that they were seeking to have much closer relationship with the West, because culturally they still think, at least the majority of the people there think that that's who they are. They are the part of the Europe, they are part of the West. And when this whole new phase begins with rebuilding Ukraine, the structures, buildings, infrastructures, education systems, everything. So when that really starts, this is going to be amazing new moment for Europe, but I would also say for United States, because what United States is going to see, it's much more coherent Europe, but also Europe that is very grateful for all the support that the United States has given to Ukraine. Because remember, Ukraine is ultimately a European country. That enables to bring the new kind of a coalition, which is not just a coalition of the West, because Ukraine, for instance, is not actually in the West. It is situated in the East. But there is a new kind of a communion that all seeks for democracy, human rights, and possibilities for people to be entrepreneurial, to build the type of the economy that is more responsive to the needs of the people, and society that accepts that the freedom is the ultimate principle of the culture. Now, in order to do that, we need to see a lot of things happen, because currently we still are in the situation where war is raging and a lot of fear impulses are all around the world, also stagnating economy and making this normal kind of interaction between the people in different societies, hinging them to really to strive for what they think is the best. Because as I said, it's about the possibilities of expressing yourself without insulting the others. That is what we as human beings seek to do here on earth. And now this comes back to what might be the true consequence of this war. It might be that we are refreshing our own ideas. What is the most essential for the countries, as well as for the individuals, to live a life which is worthwhile? And certainly we should be out of that type of the world where the idea that we need to be repressive towards our citizens is what we should endure. Because if we take ourselves, let's say 20, 30 years into the future, from where we are now, we're going to see there a type of the global society which have a huge respect on these type of the values. And why am I certain about it? I'm certain about it because this is what we ultimately strive as human beings. The current problem and the problems of the past has been that we have let people who represent them as the ones that are thinking about our good and our benefits, while in reality they are just seeking their own self-interest. And there is a huge difference between these two motives. And now in this world of the future, I'm sure we're gonna see there a true democracies and the truly decision makers that are much more concerned about the common good that they own good. Even if this sounds far-fetching, I guarantee you that it is not. And that is because we, as human beings, if we want to have something happening, we just need to be sticking to that and make that possible. Because it's in our belief that carries through the tough times. But if we believe that the type of the future is possible, that we really want to go for, it's going to happen one way or another. The war in Ukraine will end because they always end. And then after that, another era will begin. Subscribe to my channel where you can learn more about the future.